Hey friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, my name is Paul, and in this channel I talk about things that I am curious about and things I'm looking to I like to share. So in today's video, I wanted to talk to you guys about the idea of like the long-term learning and being committed to it, and why you're going to see the compounding effects happen, but it's not going to be nearly as hard as you may perceive in the beginning because of what the compound effect does. So I wanted to give a few examples of this and try and give my perspective on how I see this and why I think it's very realistic to learn deeply, very deeply across a wide array of topics. So with this first example, it's going to be this. So a lot of people, they would love to learn another language. Probably one of the most common ones that I hear is that people want to learn Spanish. And you know, a lot of times people go through the life, oh man, I just really wish I could learn that. And they never get around to it. So the idea of learning 10 or 15 languages or 20 language, like some of these people do, it is just absolutely mind blowing to them. One of the things I don't think that we think about in terms of learning and the effects could have like within one topic is, so let's say it took you 3 years to learn Spanish and to become fluent in it. Let's say, okay, great, it took you 3 years. For some people, maybe 5. Let's say that you want to learn another language that has similar rules, similar grammar, etc. The time frame on that, you can easily learn 2, 3, 4 languages that are similar to Spanish, and now you can say that you're proficient in 3, 4, or 5, different languages. Now, if you want to learn a completely new language, like let's say it's like Chinese, that has no, at least that I'm familiar with, that has no similarity with Spanish or English. Well, then you're like, okay, then you're probably going to be on a bigger time frame, although less than the 3 years that it originally took you, because you're familiar with at least learning new foreign sounds. Okay, so when I think about my own learning journey, whether it's like finance, literature, languages, health, anything like that, I'm viewing it on a long-term basis. And so for me, these first few years have been very, yes, overwhelming, because I've been trying to familiarize myself with many different topics, a lot of different jargon. But here's the thing, when you, like, let's take business just as a topic in general. Okay, within business, there's multiple different sections, and people go to school just for these sections alone. So for example, you can know accounting inside and out. You can be an executive and know the operations side of things inside and out. If you want to be more the CEO who has to read the financial statements and know how to lead people and know how to cast vision, know all that stuff. There are multiple different aspects. You could be the CFO who is doing that, maybe doing some of the mergers and acquisitions, trying to grow the company, or I don't know, just a lot of those different things, even within the business field, right? So you can specialize in any one of those, but over time, if you just study finance as a whole and study marketing as a whole, for example, you're naturally going to become assimilated with some of the language, some of the jargon. And so even though you may not be directly specializing in one of those other areas, you're going to grow in those other areas as well, even though you didn't specialize in them. So for example, even though you didn't go to school to get a marketing degree, you're going to have some familiarity with marketing if you just read some of the books and you're involved in a business who's, doing some of the marketing plans and you're part of that team. So there's going to be that overlap there. And then on the, let's say on the other side of things, you are trying to write. So you're learning about writing, but at the same time, you're having to keep in touch with clients with business, and you're sending different proposals. Maybe you have to keep up with the blog on your business's website. Well, you're practicing writing over there while you're learning about writing. And so even though you didn't go to school to become an author of any type, you didn't study literature of any type, you're reading a couple of books while you're also practicing it. Okay, maybe your time frame for achieving what you would think of as a good writer is going to be maybe a decent amount longer than the person who just specializes. That may be very well the case. That is okay, but you'll realize by the time you're 35, 40, you'll be pretty well versed in this area, and it won't be foreign at all. And people are going to be bringing up different rules to you, different ideas within writing, and you're going to be a little bit more familiar. And so the idea that I have with learning and with the pretty ambitious goals that I do have, to be honest with you, they don't seem all that crazy to me, because I'm like, okay, if I can build this foundation wide enough and then just learn these areas deep enough, but they're going to have so much overlap that this beginning, it's going to take a lot of time and investment up front. But as I continue to learn new things and as I continue to challenge my brain with those different areas, I'm inevitably going to be making connections in my brain to things that I've already learned. And the broader base that I can have, the broader foundation that I can have, I believe it's going to be much simpler and much easier to then compound that knowledge when I go to learn something new. Because if it took me a year or 2 years to learn something new at this point, but now I'm combining it in 10 years time with the 4 other things that took, a decent amount of time to learn as well. Now this next thing may only take me a year. And then maybe in another 10 years time, which that leaves me at 42, maybe I can start learning stuff in 6 to 8 months because of the foundation that I have. And so for me, this idea of learning vast amounts of information, uh, it's very, very intimidating when you're starting because of the learning curve that you have to take. But when you see the big picture of things and when you plan things to have it relate to each other, and the things that you're practicing in your day to day are utilizing the things that you're learning. So you're not just learning them in theory, but you're practicing them as well. All these things begin to overlap in your brain and create the different connections. Because if you're just learning something in theory, but then you're never practicing it, well, in 3 or 4 years' time, that's going to disappear. That's going to disappear. Okay. So when and this is why I'm creating this video, when I am approaching learning, one of the first things that I'm doing is, okay, why am I even choosing to learn this thing? What purpose does it have in the bigger picture? And the next thing I'm doing is, okay, what do I need to know? So it's a why, and then it's what. What do I even need to know ahead of time to learn this thing efficiently? Is there someone who's done it before? Is there someone who I can bring alongside of me? And then the last part is going to be how. Okay, how should I go about doing this? If I'm going to do this, do I give myself a time frame? If so, what's the time frame? Do I do it on my own? Do I do it with people? All those things are helpful to think about when you're learning. But I would say probably the 2 biggest things are, why are you learning this thing? Like what practical or emotional attachment do you have for a reason to learn this thing? Because if you can have one of those things that has an actual ideal outcome, like a real life outcome, most likely you're going to be much more interested in the learning because you see a tangible benefit for it. And then the other thing that I would say is probably most important in this as well is, what is the big picture on this whole thing? So like you have the why you want to learn this, but like if you are ambitious and you're wanting to learn multiple things, if you got to see how the big picture all connects to see what you're building. Because the way that I view my own mind personally is, I feel like I'm kind of building like a sculpture, and I see the sculpture at what I look like, 70, 80 years old. And all I'm trying to do is, okay, if that's what that mind looks like at 70, 80 years old, what's it going to take in the process of getting there? In what steps, like in what order do I need to do it? When do I start specializing, and how long do I stay broad? How long do I keep the knowledge base going like this? Do I keep it going like this while building deeper in some areas? So these are all things to think about as well. And I don't think that we think enough about this, especially in relation to college. We're like, okay, we got a certain curriculum and we just follow. And we're like, okay, that's what it is. But I know for me, I was finance first year. I wasn't going to be learning any of the real stuff until my junior year. So I almost dropped out my sophomore year. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to start learning this stuff on my own. And so that's what I did. So then I was like, okay, am I going to drop out or am I going to go back to college? And then I fast forward, I was like, okay, well, what do I want to do long term? Do I want to stay in finance the whole time? No, I also want to write. I want to influence people through communication of any type, so whether it be speaking or written. And then I was like, okay, well, what should I do within that? Then I was looking at 2 influences on my life, and I was looking at Jesus and C.S. Lewis, and I was like, okay, both these guys are very influential in terms of stories, in terms of parables. So I was like, okay, I should probably go study English, and then within English, I could study literature because then I want to learn some of the classics, and I want to learn some of the time frames and the cultures that Paul in the New Testament was dealing with when he was going around sharing the gospel, because I do want to go learn about, go to seminary one day for that stuff. So if I also want to go to seminary, I know that they're going to require languages in that. So while I start learning a little bit of Latin now, and if I learn a little bit of Latin now, Latin's very familiar or very similar to Spanish. And so that connects there. And if it's similar to Spanish, well, I live in Florida. And if I want to do business, well, there's a lot of Spanish speaking people here, and there's only going to be more. And so, okay, so I see how that connects if I can learn Latin, Spanish. So then maybe I can go on and, learn more languages that are similar to that. And so again, I mean, I could keep going actually with the things, even the books that I have right now, the different courses that I'm taking on my own, completely outside of school. I take more courses than I'm signed up for in school. I just love learning. But you can even see with that, it's because ever since I had something that was given to me that I did not like, well, then I went searching for my own on what to do about it. And since that day, I've never looked back. I've even not even looked at college the same. I'm not utilizing writing right now per se. I'm reading about it. I'm doing a little bit of it. Obviously I have to write a lot of essays for my English classes, and I have to read some of the books for that. And so I'm utilizing it some, but not nearly to the extent that I will be. I'm practicing a little bit of poetry, just trying to get the creative juices flowing there. Never written poetry before, so I'm kind of just doing some things on my own there. Been journaling more. All these things are just to create and compound and compound and compound. Learn how to think, learn how to create, learn how to write, learn how to speak, learn how to communicate. All these things I'm planning to compound with it. And so I just wanted to give this idea to you guys and kind of give the thought process behind it, because if you can have more than a perspective of just the 4 years that you're in school, or even maybe the 8 years because you're going to get a master's or doctorate, whatever, keep going higher. Well, what about the stuff outside of school? What books are you reading on your own? What courses are you taking on your own that are not school related? You're going to get no recognition for them. No one's going to know that you did them, but you're doing it for your own purpose because it fits within your vision, because you want to be a certain person. I've talked about this a lot in this channel, becoming a person of value, becoming a person who knows these things, being a competent person instead of just being a person who's come across money, so therefore you have something to say in society. You want to be a person of value. You want to build yourself up in a way that you are a competent person. Someone else can't pull the shade over you because you're ignorant of a topic. You are well versed in different topics, and you are working on becoming deep in those different topics as well. And the only way to do that is to spend a lot of time. It's just to spend a lot of time. You got to give investment to it, but and like anything, it's building up a muscle for it. I know for me, one of the hardest things, and I could probably make another video about this, but I know for me, one of the hardest things before was when I had a landscaping company back in high school. I was literally moving for 12 to 15 hours a day. And for me, it was honestly actually not that hard, with one, because I was even younger than I am now, but two, because it was physical labor. So you can kind of just space out and it doesn't really require a lot. When I had to start learning how to train my mind in a way that could stay focused for a while, this is where I learned all the difference in the world. Focus it's going to be the separator, I believe, in the future, of people who can achieve things and people who won't, because of the fast-paced society that we're in and distractibility. That you'll see, I've said this before in reading videos that I've done. People can't focus. That's half the reason why people can't read. So they're going to listen to audiobooks, and the thing is going to be, oh, well, I like the listening experience better. I can double speed it, Well, yeah, also, you don't realize how fast you can actually read if you just practice too. But a big part of that is the lack of ability to focus. So anyways, kind of just went on a little tangent there. But keep this in mind with your own learning. Keep this in mind with your own idea of who you see yourself to be. And frankly, if you have no ambitions in that category at all, that is more than okay. That is more than okay. The only thing I would say to you is at least get the basics right. The spiritual stuff, the financial stuff, and the health stuff. You don't want people to pull a bag over your eyes in any of those cases. You don't want to be ignorant of those cases. So get those three right. The others are just extras and great additions, but the spiritual, you got to know that stuff. The financial, you got to know that stuff. And your own health, you got to know that stuff. So that would be my little piece of advice. And let me know if any of that sounded interesting or helpful, or if you're on the same journey of trying to learn a lot over a long period of time. If anything in that, honestly, connected with you, let me know down in the comment section below. And with that being said, I will see you guys on the next one.